They came in silence, as they had before. No grand announcement, no fiery descent from the heavens. One moment, the skies above Cairo were clear. The next, they were filled with impossible shapes, massive, angular vessels that shimmered like liquid obsidian. The world froze in collective awe and terror. The pyramids of Giza, ancient and enigmatic, seemed to hum faintly, as if welcoming old masters home. The first broadcast came not through our satellites or radios, but directly into our minds. A voice, cold, resonant, and ancient, spoke in a language no human had ever heard yet somehow understood. We are the Kha'tir. We return to claim what is ours. Panic swept the globe. The Kha'tir didn't elaborate, but they didn't need to. Every historian, every archaeologist who had ever whispered about extraterrestrial involvement in Earth's ancient wonders suddenly felt vindicated and horrified. They were here for the planet itself. The pyramids, it turned out, were not tombs or monuments but markers. Beacons. A claim staked millennia ago by beings so advanced that their technology had been mistaken for divinity. For days, they hovered there above Giza, their ships casting shadows that stretched for miles. Humanity scrambled for answers. Governments convened emergency councils. Scientists worked around the clock to decipher the faint energy pulses emanating from the pyramids. Militaries braced for war against an enemy they couldn't possibly comprehend. And then came the ultimatum. You have 7 rotations of your star to surrender your dominion over this world. Failure to comply will result in annihilation. The world erupted into chaos. Some nations prepared to fight. Others sought ways to appease our would-be conquerors. Cults sprang up overnight, worshipping the Kha'tir as gods returned to reclaim their throne. Protests filled the streets of every major city as people demanded answers from leaders who had none. But amidst the chaos, there were those who refused to bow or break. Those who believed that humanity's resilience was its greatest weapon. Among them was Dr. Elena Marquez, a physicist specializing in quantum mechanics, and one of the leading researchers studying the pyramids' newfound activity. Elena had always been fascinated by the pyramids, not just their construction, but their purpose. She'd spent years theorizing that they were more than mere structures, that they held secrets far beyond our understanding. Now, faced with an alien invasion tied directly to her life's work, she felt both vindicated and terrified. Her team worked tirelessly in an underground lab outside Cairo, analyzing data from every available source. Satellite imagery of the ships, energy readings from the pyramids, even ancient texts that suddenly seemed less like mythology and more like history. And then they found it, a pattern hidden within the energy pulses emanating from Giza. It wasn't just a signal. It was a message. Elena stared at the screen in disbelief as her team decrypted it piece by piece. The Kha'tir hadn't just left markers. They'd left instructions. A failsafe embedded within the pyramids themselves, a way to fight back against their creators should they ever return. But activating it would be no small feat. The failsafe required immense energy, more than any single nation could provide, and precise synchronization across multiple sites around the globe where similar markers might exist. Teotihuacan in Mexico, Stonehenge in England, Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Elena knew what this meant. Humanity would have to unite as never before if they were to stand a chance against their would-be overlords. As she presented her findings to an emergency council of world leaders via video conference, she felt a flicker of hope amidst her fear. For all our flaws, our wars and divisions, humans had always been at their best when pushed to the brink. We have 7 days, she said firmly, her voice cutting through the cacophony of debate and doubt. 7 days to prove that this planet belongs to us. Not because we built monuments or carved borders, but because we refused to give up. The room fell silent as her words sank in. And so began humanity's race against time. A desperate gamble to unlock ancient secrets while preparing for a battle unlike any other. The Kha'tir watched from above with cold detachment, confident in their superiority. But they had underestimated us. They had forgotten what it meant to be human, to fight not just for survival, but for something greater: freedom, dignity, home. The countdown had begun. The Kha'tir descended on the 7th day. Their ships, once distant and aloof in the stratosphere, now loomed low over Earth's cities, casting shadows that swallowed entire skylines. The vessels opened like blooming flowers, revealing their occupants. Massive, floating creatures resembling octopuses, their translucent bodies pulsating with bioluminescent patterns. Each had a central mass of writhing tentacles and a single, enormous eye that glowed with an eerie, shifting light. They were beautiful in a way that defied comprehension, alien in every sense of the word. Their arrival was not met with silence. Humanity had not been idle during those 7 days. Across the globe, efforts to activate the failsafe hidden within the pyramids had reached fever pitch. Elena Marquez and her team worked around the clock, coordinating with scientists and engineers from every continent. The energy requirements were staggering, but humanity had risen to the challenge. Still, as the first Kha'tir emerged from their ships and began to hover ominously over Cairo, London, Tokyo, and New York, it was clear that time was running out. The multiversal translator activated again, broadcasting their message directly into every human mind. The voice was no longer cold and detached. It was seething with anger. "You have defiled our legacy," it snarled. "The pyramids were meant to guide you, to elevate your species beyond its primitive origins. Instead, you squandered their gifts. You polluted this world with chaos and noise. Your internet, a web of lies and distractions, has corrupted the very essence of your evolution." Elena froze as the words echoed in her mind. The Kha'tir weren't just angry, they were offended. To them, humanity's greatest achievement, the creation of a global network that connected billions of minds, was an abomination. "We gave you tools to ascend," the voice continued, its tone dripping with contempt, "and you used them to descend into madness. This planet is no longer yours to claim." The ultimatum was clear: surrender or face extinction. But humanity wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. In the underground lab outside Cairo, Elena's team was on the brink of a breakthrough. The failsafe hidden within the pyramids wasn't just a weapon. It was a signal amplifier designed to disrupt the Kha'tir's neural communication network. If activated, it could sever their connection to one another, leaving them disoriented and vulnerable. But there was a catch. The failsafe required precise synchronization across multiple ancient sites around the world. Each site had to generate and transmit a specific frequency at exactly the same time, a feat that required unprecedented global cooperation. Elena's voice trembled as she addressed her team via video link. "We're almost there," she said, "but we need more power, and we need it now." Around the world, humanity rallied. In Mexico, engineers worked tirelessly to activate Teotihuacan's ancient energy channels. In England, scientists braved freezing winds to install transmitters around Stonehenge. In Cambodia, monks joined hands with technicians as they calibrated equipment at Angkor Wat. Even as the Kha'tir began their descent, humanity refused to give up. The first attack came without warning. In New York City, a Kha'tir ship unleashed a beam of energy that vaporized entire city blocks in an instant. The screams of millions filled the air as buildings crumbled into ash. Similar attacks followed in Tokyo and London, each one more devastating than the last. But amidst the destruction, there were moments of defiance. In Paris, fighter jets swarmed around a Kha'tir vessel like angry hornets, their missiles leaving trails of fire in the sky. In Rio de Janeiro, civilians armed with makeshift weapons stood their ground against smaller drones deployed by the aliens. In Mumbai, hackers worked feverishly to disrupt the Kha'tir systems using Earth's own corrupted internet, a desperate gamble that paid off when one of their ships faltered midair before crashing into the Arabian Sea. Humanity was fighting back, not just with weapons, but with ingenuity and sheer determination. In Cairo, Elena stood before the Great Pyramid as her team prepared for activation. The air around her crackled with energy as massive generators hummed to life. "We're ready," said one of her colleagues over the comms. Elena nodded grimly. "Then let's do this." She pressed a button on her tablet, initiating the sequence. Around the world, similar scenes played out as ancient sites lit up with blinding light. Energy surged through long dormant channels carved into stone thousands of years ago, a testament to both human ingenuity and alien design. The failsafe activated. A deafening hum filled the air as waves of energy rippled outward from each site, converging on Giza like rivers flowing into an ocean. The sky above the pyramids erupted in a kaleidoscope of colors as the signal amplified and transmitted outward into space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then came chaos. The Kha'tir screamed, not with voices, but through their bioluminescent patterns, which flickered erratically as their neural network collapsed. Their ships wavered in midair before plummeting to Earth like falling stars. Humanity watched in stunned silence as their would-be conquerors flailed helplessly against an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Their own technology turned against them by those they had underestimated. It wasn't over yet. Elena knew that disabling their network was only half the battle. Now came the hard part, driving them away for good. As she stood amidst the ruins of Cairo, watching as humans and aliens clashed in desperate combat below her, she felt a surge of hope mixed with determination. This was our planet, not because we had built monuments or created networks, but because we refused to let anyone take it from us. The fight wasn't over, but neither was humanity's spirit, and that would make all the difference. The Kha'tir writhed in the air, their massive tentacles flailing as their bioluminescent patterns stuttered like dying embers. The failsafe had worked, at least partially. Their neural network, the invisible web that connected their minds across vast distances, was shattered. The once coordinated alien fleet now moved erratically, their ships hovering in disarray as if unsure of their purpose. But humanity had no time to celebrate. The Kha'tir were still here, and they were still dangerous. Elena Marquez stood atop a makeshift command post near the Great Pyramid, her face lit by the glow of monitors displaying live feeds from around the world. The failsafe had disrupted the Kha'tir's communication, but it hadn't neutralized their firepower. Alien ships were still raining destruction on Earth cities, albeit with less precision than before. Status report. Elena barked into her headset, her voice cutting through the cacophony of alarms and frantic chatter. Teotihuacan is holding, came a reply from Mexico. The energy channels are stable, but we've got drones swarming the site. Local militias are trying to hold them off. Stonehenge is active, another voice chimed in from England. But we've got casualties, lots of them. The Kha'tir are targeting civilians. Angkor, what is secure for now, added a third voice from Cambodia. But we're running out of time. They're regrouping. Elena clenched her fists. The failsafe had bought humanity precious time, but it wasn't enough. The Kha'tir weren't retreating. They were adapting. In New York, flames licked at the edges of Central Park as soldiers and civilians fought side by side against Kha'tir drones. The smaller machines resembled their creators, floating, tentacled orbs that emitted high-pitched screeches as they fired beams of searing light. Despite their advanced technology, they were not invincible. A well-placed rocket, or even a lucky shot from a sniper rifle, could bring them down. Sergeant Marcus Kane ducked behind a crumbling wall, his heart pounding as he reloaded his rifle. Around him, his squad was locked in a desperate battle against a swarm of drones that had descended on Manhattan like locusts. "Fall back!" Kane shouted over the roar of gunfire. "We need to regroup." "No," came a defiant voice from a young woman wielding a makeshift flamethrower. "This is our city. We're not giving it up." Kane wanted to argue, but she was right. This wasn't just about survival. It was about defiance. Humanity wasn't going to let these alien invaders take anything without a fight. With renewed determination, he rose from cover and fired at an approaching drone, his shot striking its central eye and sending it spiraling to the ground in a shower of sparks. In Tokyo, a group of engineers and hackers worked feverishly in an underground bunker beneath Shinjuku Station. Their leader, Yuki Tanaka, was a former cybersecurity expert who had spent years dismantling corporate firewalls for fun. Now she was using her skills to attack something far more formidable: the Kha'tir's remaining systems. "They think our internet is chaos," Yuki muttered as her fingers flew across her keyboard. "Let's show them what chaos really looks like." Using every trick she knew, and inventing new ones on the fly, Yuki unleashed wave after wave of cyberattacks on the alien ships hovering above Tokyo Bay. She didn't know if it would work. She didn't even know if the Kha'tir's technology could be hacked in the traditional sense. But she wasn't about to sit idly by while her city burned. To her astonishment, one of the ships began to falter, its sleek black surface flickering like an old television set. "It's working," one of her team members exclaimed. Yuki grinned despite herself. "Then let's keep going." Back in Cairo, Elena watched as reports poured in from around the globe. Humanity was fighting back, not just with weapons, but with ingenuity and sheer stubbornness. But it wasn't enough. The Kha'tir were adapting faster than anyone had anticipated. Even without their neural network, they were learning how to operate independently. Their attacks were becoming more coordinated, their drones more aggressive. Elena knew they needed another edge, something that would tip the scales decisively in humanity's favor. Her eyes drifted to the Great Pyramid behind her, its ancient stones glowing faintly with residual energy from the failsafe activation. "What else are you hiding?" she whispered under her breath. The pyramids had already revealed one secret, a weapon designed to disrupt the Kha'tir's communication network. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover. She turned to one of her colleagues, an archaeologist named Dr. Amir Hassan, who had spent decades studying Egypt's ancient monuments. "Amir," she said urgently, "what do we know about secondary systems? Could there be another layer to this failsafe?" Amir frowned thoughtfully. "It's possible," he admitted. "The inscriptions we've translated suggest that the pyramids were part of a larger network, a global system designed not just for defense but for something else." "What kind of something else?" Elena pressed. Amir hesitated before answering. "Energy manipulation on a scale we can barely comprehend," he said finally. "If we can figure out how to activate it." Elena didn't need him to finish the sentence. If there was even a chance that the pyramids held another secret, another weapon, they had to find it. As night fell over Cairo, Elena and her team descended into the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the Great Pyramid armed with flashlights and portable scanners. The air was thick with dust and an almost palpable sense of history as they navigated passageways that hadn't been explored in millennia. At last, they reached a chamber deep within the pyramid, a room filled with strange carvings and crystalline structures that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly light. "This is it," Amir whispered reverently. Elena approached one of the crystals cautiously, her heart racing as she reached out to touch its smooth surface. The moment her fingers made contact, a surge of energy coursed through her body, a sensation both exhilarating and terrifying. Images flashed through her mind, stars exploding in brilliant supernovas, planets teeming with life, vast cities built by beings far older than humanity. And then she saw them, the Kha'tir, not as conquerors but as creators, builders who had once shaped entire worlds before abandoning them to ruin. When she opened her eyes again, she knew what had to be done. "This isn't just about defense," she said aloud, her voice trembling with awe and determination. "This is about creation and destruction." The pyramids weren't just weapons. They were keys to unlocking forces beyond anything humanity had ever known. But would those forces save them, or destroy them all? The chamber deep beneath the Great Pyramid pulsed with an otherworldly energy as Elena Marquez stood transfixed, her hand still pressed against the crystalline structure. The visions that had overwhelmed her moments earlier began to coalesce into a single, undeniable truth. The pyramids were not merely markers or weapons. They were representations of a greater trinity, a cosmic balance between creation, destruction, and ascension. "Elena?" Dr. Amir Hassan's voice broke through her reverie. He stood beside her, his flashlight trembling slightly in his hand. "What did you see?" She turned to him, her eyes alight with a mixture of awe and urgency. "The pyramids," she began, her voice unsteady but resolute. "They're more than we thought. They're not just tools or monuments. They're representations of something fundamental. A trinity." Amir frowned. "A trinity? Like the triads in Egyptian mythology? Osiris, Isis, Horus?" "No," Elena said, shaking her head. "Bigger than that. It's not just about gods or mythology. It's about forces. Creation, destruction, and ascension. The pyramids are conduits for these forces, and they've been dormant for thousands of years." Amir's eyes widened as he processed her words. "If that's true, then the failsafe we activated was only one part of the equation," Elena finished for him. "We disrupted the Kha'tir's neural network because we tapped into the destructive force embedded in the pyramid's design. But there's more. There has to be more." She gestured to the carvings on the walls of the chamber, intricate depictions of stars, spirals, and geometric patterns that seemed to shimmer faintly in the dim light. These symbols, she said, running her fingers over one of the carvings, they're not just decorative. They're instructions. Amir stepped closer, his academic curiosity overcoming his apprehension. Instructions for what? For activating the other two forces, Elena replied. Creation and ascension. Above ground, chaos reigned. The Kha'tir were regrouping despite their neural disconnection. Their massive floating forms drifted over cities like vengeful gods, their tentacles lashing out with beams of energy that reduced buildings to rubble in seconds. Humanity fought back with everything it had: fighter jets, tanks, even improvised weapons. But it was clear that brute force alone wouldn't be enough. In New York City, Sergeant Marcus Kane led a ragged group of survivors through the smoldering ruins of Manhattan. The once bustling metropolis was now a war zone, its iconic skyline shattered by alien firepower. "We can't keep this up," one of his soldiers muttered as they took cover behind a crumbling wall. "We don't have a choice," Kane replied grimly. "We hold the line until we get word from Cairo." "What if Cairo doesn't come through?" another soldier asked. Kane didn't answer. He couldn't afford to entertain that possibility. In Tokyo, Yuki Tanaka and her team were making progress. If progress could be measured in fleeting victories against an overwhelmingly superior enemy. Using hacked Kha'tir technology and Earth's much-maligned internet, they had managed to disable several alien drones and even crash one of their smaller ships into Tokyo Bay. But Yuki knew it wasn't enough. "We need more power," she muttered as she stared at the lines of code on her screen. One of her teammates looked up from his workstation. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Yuki said slowly, "that if these aliens hate our internet so much, maybe we can use it against them." Her teammate frowned. "How?" "By overloading their systems," Yuki replied. "If we can amplify our signal, turn every device on Earth into a transmitter, we might be able to disrupt their technology on a massive scale." "That sounds insane." "It is," Yuki admitted with a grin. "But it just might work." Back in Cairo, Elena and Amir worked feverishly to decipher the carvings in the hidden chamber beneath the Great Pyramid. "The Trinity is everywhere in Egyptian symbolism," Amir said as he examined one particularly elaborate carving. "Life, death, rebirth, past, present, future. Even the pyramids themselves are triangular, a physical representation of three merging into one." Elena nodded distractedly as she studied another section of the wall. Her mind raced with possibilities. "If we can activate all three forces," she said aloud, "we might be able to do more than just fight back. We could turn the tide completely." "But how?" Amir asked. "We barely managed to activate the destructive force without blowing ourselves up." Elena didn't answer immediately. Her gaze had fallen on a series of interconnected spirals etched into the stone, a pattern that seemed to pulse faintly with its own inner light. "I think," she began hesitantly, "I think these spirals represent energy flows, pathways for channeling the forces." Amir frowned as he followed her gaze. "Pathways leading where?" "To each other," Elena said with growing excitement. "The pyramids aren't just individual structures. They're part of a global network." Amir's eyes widened as he realized what she was saying. "You mean Teotihuacan? Stonehenge? Angkor Wat?" "Yes," Elena exclaimed. "They're all connected. If we can synchronize them, activate all three forces simultaneously, we might be able to unleash something powerful enough to drive the Kha'tir off Earth for good." Amir hesitated. "Or destroy us all in the process." Elena met his gaze steadily. "Do we have another choice?" As dawn broke over Cairo, Elena's team relayed their findings to their counterparts around the world. At Teotihuacan, engineers scrambled to recalibrate their equipment to align with new instructions from Cairo. At Stonehenge, scientists braved freezing winds as they adjusted transmitters and generators. At Angkor Wat, monks chanted prayers alongside technicians working tirelessly to synchronize their systems. The plan was ambitious and dangerous, but humanity had run out of safer options. Above Earth cities, the Kha'tir seemed to sense that something was happening. Their ships began converging on key locations, Cairo chief among them, as if they understood that humanity was preparing its final gambit. Elena watched from atop the Great Pyramid as alien vessels descended toward her position like dark omens against the rising sun. "Are we ready?" she asked over her headset. "Almost," came Yuki's voice from Tokyo. "Just give us a few more minutes." "We don't have a few minutes," Marcus Kane interjected from New York. "They're closing in fast." Elena took a deep breath and looked out at the horizon, where alien ships loomed ever closer. "Then we'll have to make every second count." Elena Marquez stood in the chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, her mind racing with possibilities. The carvings on the walls whispered secrets of a trinity far older than any human civilization: creation, destruction, and ascension. But even as she deciphered these ancient truths, a desperate voice crackled through her headset. "Elena!" It was Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo. "We got a problem. The Kha'tir are adapting faster than we thought. They're recalibrating their systems, and they're targeting our synchronization points. We're running out of time." Elena's heart sank. The failsafe had given humanity a fighting chance, but it wasn't enough. The Kha'tir were relentless, and their ships were closing in on key sites across the globe. Humanity needed something more, something unexpected. And then, like a bolt of lightning, inspiration struck. "Elena," Amir said hesitantly, noticing her sudden stillness. "What is it?" She turned to him, her eyes blazing with determination. "The Kha'tir see themselves as the ultimate apex predators, creators and destroyers of worlds. But what if we show them they're not at the top of the food chain? What if we use Earth's own apex predators against them?" Amir blinked in confusion. "What are you talking about?" "Elena," Yuki's voice cut in over the headset, "we don't have time for riddles." "Not riddles," Elena said quickly. "Octopuses." The room fell silent for a moment, save for the distant rumble of explosions above ground. "Octopuses?" Amir repeated incredulously. "Yes," Elena exclaimed, her voice rising with excitement. "Think about it. The Kha'tir look like massive floating octopuses. They're clearly some kind of cephalopod species adapted for space travel. What if we use Earth's octopuses to confuse or intimidate them? They might see them as rivals or even predators." "That's insane," Yuki said after a pause. "But it might just be crazy enough to work." Within hours, Elena's plan was set into motion. Across the globe, marine biologists, aquarists, and military personnel scrambled to gather as many octopuses as possible from aquariums, research facilities, and coastal waters. Giant Pacific octopuses, mimic octopuses, common octopuses. Every species was enlisted in humanity's desperate gambit. But simply releasing them into the wild wouldn't be enough. Elena and her team worked feverishly to modify existing drone technology to create floating tanks that could carry the octopuses into battle zones while keeping them alive and hydrated. The drones were equipped with projectors that amplified the octopus's natural abilities. Their color-changing chromatophores were enhanced to create dazzling displays of light and pattern. Their tentacles were fitted with harmless but intimidating extensions to make them appear even larger and more menacing. The result was an army of biomechanical cephalopod avatars, Earth's strangest warriors unleashed against an alien foe. The first deployment took place over Cairo, where Kha'tir ships hovered ominously above the pyramids like storm clouds made flesh. As the modified drones rose into the air, carrying their octopus passengers, a hush fell over the battlefield below. Soldiers and civilians alike stared in stunned disbelief as dozens of glowing, writhing forms ascended into the sky like spectral guardians summoned from the depths of the ocean. The Kha'tir hesitated. For all their technological superiority, they had not anticipated this. A sudden appearance of creatures that bore an uncanny resemblance to themselves but radiated an aura of primal ferocity. The octopuses put on a show unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Their chromatophores pulsed in hypnotic patterns that mimicked aggression displays seen in nature, but amplified to an almost supernatural degree. Their tentacles writhed and coiled with eerie precision, creating shapes that seemed both alien and familiar. And then came a sound, using underwater recordings amplified through powerful speakers mounted on the drones. Elena's team broadcasted the low-frequency growls and clicks that octopuses used to communicate underwater, a sound that resonated deep within the alien ships like a predator announcing its presence. The Kha'tir faltered. Their massive forms recoiled slightly, as if unsure whether to attack or retreat. For creatures that had always seen themselves as masters of their environment, this sudden challenge to their dominance was both confusing and unsettling. In Tokyo Bay, Yuki Tanaka watched as similar scenes played out above her city. The modified drones carried their glowing passengers into battle with an almost theatrical flair, weaving through Kha'tir ships like dancers in an aerial ballet. "It's working," she whispered in disbelief as one of the alien vessels began to retreat toward open water. "It's more than working," Marcus Kane said over the comms from New York. "They're scared." The turning point came when one particularly bold giant Pacific octopus managed to escape its drone tank mid-flight and latch onto a Kha'tir drone with its powerful tentacles. The alien machine flailed wildly, as if trying to shake off its attacker, but the octopus held fast, its chromatophores flashing in rapid bursts that seemed almost mocking. Onlookers cheered wildly as the alien drone spiraled out of control before crashing into a nearby river. Across the globe, humanity rallied around this bizarre, yet effective strategy. In Rio de Janeiro, fishermen released hundreds of local octopuses into modified tanks equipped with holographic projectors that made them appear 10 times their actual size. In Sydney Harbor, divers used underwater speakers to amplify cephalopod communication sounds directly beneath Kha'tir ships. Even in landlocked cities like Moscow and Berlin, holographic projections of octopuses were used to create an illusion of overwhelming numbers. The Kha'tir began to retreat en masse. For all their technological might and evolutionary adaptations, they were no match for Earth's most cunning invertebrates, or humanity's ingenuity in weaponizing them. By dawn on what would later be known as Cephalopod Day, the last of the Kha'tir ships had fled Earth's atmosphere. Humanity stood victorious, not because of brute strength or advanced technology, but because of creativity, adaptability, and an unlikely alliance with one of nature's most enigmatic creatures. As Elena Marquez stood atop the Great Pyramid watching the sunrise over a battered but defiant world, she couldn't help but smile. "We did it," Amir said quietly beside her. "No," Elena replied softly. "They did it." She looked down at a small tank containing one particularly feisty mimic octopus that had been part of Cairo's defense effort. "Thank you," she said sincerely as its chromatophores flashed briefly in what she liked to think was acknowledgement. Humanity had faced extinction, and won, not by fighting alone, but by embracing its place within Earth's vast web of life. And somewhere deep beneath the ocean waves, thousands of octopuses went about their day, unaware that they had saved an entire planet from destruction, yet somehow knowing they'd earned their place as legends among humans forevermore.